So it's half 2 a.m. on the 10th of September. Later today, the King will be formally acclaimed, I believe, by the Privy Council. I think it's Privy Council, but it will be the formal ceremony. I mean, he's king. That happens from the second of a session, but this will be the formal ceremony of a session. So another important day. I have a lot of thoughts right now, like I'm sure a lot of British people do. A lot of reflections. I mean, the coverage has been constant, obviously. Um, just one thing I want to get this out there before I forget. I think it's something that she passed away in Balmoral. The Queen loved Balmoral. She loved Scotland, as did Queen Victoria, for that matter. Um, so I think it's fitting that she passed away there, and I'd like to think she was in comfort in her final moments. And it's good that Charles was there. Um, One gets a feeling that there's very different emotions going on. Obviously, there's a sadness from the loss of really the mother of the nation. Let's face it. Um, Also, the realization we are now in a new era. She's gone. I mean, there's no way to understate that because the presence that she has had, whether you're a Republican or a Royalist, is profound. It's profound, and I appreciate not everyone is a Royalist. The idea of inherited power, an unelected head of state, and so on. I get it. I get the argument. Just one point about that, though, this idea that if we were suddenly a republic, it would guarantee um, there wouldn't be poverty or something like that. I mean, some of the biggest wealth poverty gaps in the world can be found in republics. Look at the United States. Look at India. So it's not really a guarantee that if a country had an elected head of state, that somehow changes the social situation. But anyway, that's really for another video. Although it will be for another video. These issues are incredibly important. Um, I was heartened to see today that there was a warm response for the king. I was pleased to see that because there's no point glossing it over. Charles isn't his mother. And even if he turns out to be a respected king, which I hope he will, I mean, no one is going to fill her shoes. We'll never have a sovereign like Elizabeth II again, unless we had a very young prince or princess assume that role. But I think it's unlikely. Um, so we will never see that again, which will make her loss all the more difficult. But I I've just listened to an interview on the BBC that bothered me somewhat. It was an American royal correspondent, Kristen Mentzer, I believe her name is, and it's just her opinion, but her view was Americans want to see Charles be more like Harry, more outspoken on issues like, as she put it, racism and white supremacy and misogyny. Um, because this was a discussion about the fact that Charles has been political in the past. The man himself has said he understands fully that there's a separation between the sovereign and his role as Prince of Wales. William now, of course, is Prince of Wales. But I'll tell you why this bothered me. And I really don't want to make this about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. That I have very little time for them at this point. Um, I really think Meghan Markle, especially, is she fits a lot of the definition of a narcissist. I don't know her personally as a public figure. Just her behavior is utterly lamentable in many ways. I mean, the fact that these two went to a talk show host, I may as well get this out here. This is how I feel about it. They went to a talk show host, Oprah Winfrey, and basically trashed her family. Now, whatever went on, maybe there were some differences, maybe things were said that upset people's feelings. This happens in families, but I think it is just trashy and low and deeply unfair to do it that way, knowing full well that the other side couldn't really defend themselves. I mean, they could deny it, but they're not going to do rival interviews. Harry especially knows that. You know, a lot of the anger is directed at Meghan, but actually Harry knows this just as well, or more actually. In some ways, Harry, perhaps that's one thing that's unfair about the whole Sussex thing is that Meghan's got the brunt of the criticism. Harry is a grown man, and he deserves criticism as well because he chose that method. You know, they wanted to escape from the royal institution, as they said, but they want these parting shots, and they want to keep up the charity work and all that's fine. But I really, really think that they want it both ways. They want to have all the perks of being royals, yet they think they can snipe away, and it's I think it's despicable. I also think it's despicable how many left-wing Americans, and it's mainly left-wing Americans, they think they know the whole story, and they have one side. And um, my feelings tonight about this, and this this correspondent. I mean, she wasn't being hateful. She wasn't, but very much epitomizes stereotype and this idea that left-wing Americans have about the UK and about what they've heard from Harry and Meghan. Firstly, Charles cannot pontificate on issues like racism and misogyny and so on, depending on how you see those things. He can't. Certainly, 2022 is not 1952. Absolutely. So it is going to be a different reign. There's going to be certain things that Charles will have to do to keep the monarchy relevant, popular. But I think there's a lot of people out there. Well, firstly, I think there's a lot of people out there who have enormous respect for Queen Elizabeth II and this country. But I am frustrated to see the amount of people who, frankly, have animosity for this country. And they smear this country and attack this country. I don't want to be overtly negative. Honestly, this is how I'm feeling. And so much of it is based on falsehoods. One of the things that bothers me most about the Sussexes is the way they have played a role in the stigmatizing of this country. Harry, especially, this is a guy who served his country, bravely served his country. And now he's played a big role in basically, along with his wife, putting out this narrative that Britain's some sort of inward looking, hostile, racist place. And absolutely, that is not the case. I mean, I could make a long assessment here about the United Kingdom. Of course, we have bigots. Of course, there's obnoxious people out there. I'm not going to pretend that it's non existent, and I'm not suggesting that. But when you smear a nation, you have to have a real basis for that. And what I mean by a real basis is not cherry picking and saying, well, this person may have said this, or some of the tabloids were a bit jingoistic. It's, the United Kingdom is a great country, and I I think at this time when we've lost our head of state, this sort of sniping, there'll be people out there. I've seen some disgusting comments online, which I don't even want to repeat. It's not about in Britain we do not have les majestes. This is very important to say. We're not Thailand. We don't have les majestes. So it's not legal criticize the royals, even the late monarch. But she is deeply respected in this country, and I've just seen comments that are revolting. Quite frankly, it's not valid criticism. It's just vitriol. You know, there's a place for debate about monarchy. That's fine. We're a democracy. We have free speech, but right now, I think people who are sniping away this country and they want the king to fail. You know, they want Liz Truss to fail. It's a different issue. That's party political, but I have zero respect for people who, for whatever reason, and some of them are British, kind of want this country to end up red faced. I mean, oh, the British Empire. So let's have reparations. Well, the issue about reparations is a complex one. It is, and it's obviously one the king is and his heirs are going to have to face. And I accept that it's not going to just go away. But I just hope that it is approached fairly, because this country already is very generous in foreign aid, and I support foreign aid as a principle. I think that the world's sixth biggest economy should be generous in foreign aid. But the thing about reparations, it's a complex subject. I mean, what amount should it be? Over what period of time? How far back do you go? For most of the 19th century, the Royal Navy patrolled in anti-slavery operations. Now, what I'm saying, and people might say, what's this got to do with the accession? Actually, this is very important because we may well be looking at people may see with the loss of Queen Elizabeth II that our prestige has fallen once again. When she became queen, the empire was it was a decolonization period. Now, arguably, our greatest monarch has passed. I think there'll be a lot of anxiety out there, but there'll be people who's sniping away, and they'll want the king to fail. They'll want this country to fail. I say to those people, go to hell. I love my country, and the brief period I was in the armed forces, and I say that very cautiously. I didn't serve abroad. I didn't even serve really. But I went through basic training, and I made an oath of allegiance to the Queen and her successors, including King Charles III. Um, I want to really emphasize that I don't consider myself as having served. I didn't do any tours of duty or anything like that. But it was basic training in the Royal Navy Reserves, and I didn't finally get in, but I did have basic training. Um, and I made an oath of allegiance to the Queen. I took it seriously. It wasn't to me just protocol. I took that seriously. And were I trying to join today, I would take it very seriously with King Charles III. Now, I'm not saying that he can't be criticised. I'm not saying that there won't be challenges. Charles has had his flaws, but I think fundamentally he's a good man. Yeah, we all know he was a bad husband to Diana. We know that. But this idea that he should be condemned forever for that, I don't buy that at all. I made videos about that subject. I'm not going to roll it out again, but the same applies to the Queen Consort. I mean, that woman doesn't deserve the hate that she gets. Neither of them do. From some quarters, I should emphasize. And that's the good thing. I do feel that there will be a growing warmth towards them, especially the king, and that's a good thing. Um, but honestly, tonight I have very mixed feelings. An appreciation for the fact that we had a head of state in Queen Elizabeth II who really, really did display the best personification of Britishness. And I think her son carries a lot of that through. He's not his mother, there are differences, but I think he'll be a good king. That's my gut feeling. I think he's fundamentally a good man. I think he'll be a good king. The United Kingdom is not going to disappear. This is a great country, and those who are just itching for us to fail, whether they be British or whether they be abroad, it's not going to happen. So some people might think this assessment sounds kind of insecure, or I'll be honest, I'm a little anxious. It's a major transition in history. It's peaceful. It's very peaceful. And everything is set in place. This is something that's ancient. We've had a monarchy for 1,000 years with the brief interregnum, but it's one of the things that's actually best about this country. We have a very long tradition of peaceful transfers of power, both in monarchy and in politics. That's a good thing. And it's something I think we take for granted. In many parts of the world, that isn't the case. Um, but honestly, to people around the world who wish this country well, who have sent condolences for the Queen and who wish this country well, that includes our head of state, Charles III. He's a fundamentally good man, and I just hope those voices are drowned out by those who have affection for this country. Because the UK, like every country, we have a past. We have some skeletons in that past. There's things that we absolutely, yeah, we have skeletons. But I'm so fed up with the far left trying to tear this country down, and far left Americans thinking that they know the whole story. Of course, they're equally vitriolic about their own country. In the United States, actually, I think it's the sad thing there is the moderates seem to be drowned out. It's either the hard right or the hard left seem to be taking over in the United States. I mean, I really wish American moderates would have more of a voice, whether they be moderate Republicans or, which is a minority right now, or moderate Democrats. But I'm a little bit fed up of certain American politicization coming over here, and I think it has. So, with all due respect to this royal correspondent, which is entitled to her opinion, but we have absolutely no this idea that Charles should copy Harry. What, go and do interviews in such a tactless way? No, it's not going to happen. And I think it would be wrong actually for Charles to get political on politically divisive issues. It would be very wrong. I mean, she said it's not political. It's absolutely political because these movements have been politicized. She says it's just humanitarian. Well, that's very manipulative. It's very political when you end up in a situation where you're pigeonholing people, when you're smearing people, because these movements are very, in my opinion, they're very manipulative. They say they're just about progress and compassion, but they're very, I mean, this video wasn't for a whole analysis of what I think of what the left has become. But and I'm talking about the left because it isn't the right that's attacking this country, at least not in the same way. This is very sad event, but I'm cautiously confident because I think our head of state. Remember this: our head of state has had 70 years apprenticeship. I mean, and his son William is going to be a wonderful king as well. I am quite confident in those two men. As George is only a little boy, obviously it's too early to say what sort of man he'll turn out to be, but I'd be very surprised if he didn't turn out to be like his father. And William is one of the people in public life I respect the most, and his wife. Um, I don't hate the Sussexes, but I do think they've done a lot of damage in the way they've gone about things, in the tactless way they've gone about things. Um, I think that whatever issues they had could have been resolved in a different way. But they've chosen to be confrontational. They've chosen to do what they've done. And I think that's very sad. Um, and this knee jerk attitude people have, oh, this hostility towards her because she's a mixed race woman who's questioning the establishment. It's just rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to round this up, but it's a very strange feeling that this has happened. I mean, there is not a Briton alive who won't be affected by this in some way. I'm not saying, as a nation, we're generally not a very emotive people. You're not going to see Britons crying their eyes out in the streets, as was the case with Diana, because that was a very unique event. This is very unique as well, but the British are, it's not going to happen quite like that. But that doesn't mean that we're not moved. And this isn't like the passing of a president or a prime minister. It's something different. I mean, this rarely happens in the world, actually. To have a head of state who's been so dominant on national life for so long, so long. Um, anyway, that's my thoughts tonight. I'm going to wrap this up because it's a bit long, but I um, I have no respect for those who are pushing an anti-British narrative, who are smearing this country as racist, as you know, who want to look at the empire and they want to look at one side of the empire, um, and they're only interested in vilifying the United Kingdom. To those people, I don't even want them on my conscience, to be quite honest. Rather, I want to think of Queen Elizabeth II's dignity, her tenacity, her she really personified the best of Britishness. She wasn't perfect. I'm not saying that she never ever made mistakes. She was slow on Aberfan. She got the mood of the nation wrong on Diana's death, and perhaps some of her friendship with some dictators around the world, or friendship might be the wrong word, but really she was a perfect constitutional monarch, and all those mistakes that she made, I think she learned from. Aberfan, well, when the Dunblane massacre happened, she went straight there, and even in Aberfan, she made up for it. Diana, again, she did get the mood of the nation wrong, but she amended that, and she was a human being. She wasn't perfect, but when we consider that she was thrust into that role, you know, monarchy's not like a job appointment. It's not like running a campaign and getting elected as leader. It's something different, and I believe she was the perfect constitutional monarch, literally, because those prime ministerial meetings, every single living prime minister has said that they knew they could talk to her in confidence. Every single one. Um, Major, Blair, Brown, Cameron, May, Johnson, and Truss. I'm sure there's a lot more to say, but this will suffice for now. Um, yeah, we'll wrap this up. But tonight, now we're in a new era. But I believe that Charles will bring through the best of his mother, but also best of himself. Actually, I think it would be a mistake to underestimate him as king. And I think, for the sake of all of us, I mean, if there comes a point where things become so messy that there needs to be question marks on monarchy itself, that will come. But I don't think we've reached that yet. I really don't. And I don't think with the passing of Elizabeth II, we're suddenly, well, let's become a republic. I don't sense that at all. And I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. And there's a reason for that. Don't fix what's not broken. The system actually works quite well. So I hope Charles III has a successful reign, and I hope this country sees bright days ahead. And I hope those anti-British voices, freedom of speech, let them have their opinion, but I hope they're drowned out by the positive messages, positive vibes, and those who actually respect this country, which is what this is how I feel about it anyway. Long live the United Kingdom.